Data is a collection of facts like the marks, like the age of student, their names, the everyday information that we collect when we tell the students to fill a form, because we are collecting certain information in the institution that will help achieve
Excuse
certain.
Peter, excuse, are you getting me?
Yes, yes, I'm getting you.
Yeah, you are not audible enough. Can you maybe put the mic closer to your mouth?
Okay, let's check again. Is that
Yeah,
better?
we need like to let people hear from far.
Yes, yes, but is that better? I don't know. Just check with me.
All
Is
right,
that
okay.
better? Is that better?
Yeah, maybe
So we
maybe you
carry
keep
on.
it like that.
Okay. So yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So we can continue. So everyday information that we collect in the classroom forms the data that we use. Now, the type of information we collect comes at the point where we collect all this information in the journey of a student. When a student inquire about joining the program, about applying the program, we normally start to give the student forms in which they fill. And as they complete this form, they provide us with information. This information will later be digitized, maybe through entering into our system. And later on, when the students ask for another service like accommodation, if they want to enroll for courses, and any other additional support, at every point when they ask for any service, the university has a way of doing so through some forms that the student complete. And this one normally goes all along the way until the point where student graduates. So how much data do we collect? What kind of data is it that we keep collecting at every stage? So keep reflecting about that. So whenever I mentioned about data, I'm talking about the data that we collect from the point where the students join the institution to the point where the student graduates. So, and why are we concerned about this data, and what type of data are we concerned about? So, we are concerned about the way we keep data, and this data include the age of the student, the gender, where they come from, type of learner. In some cases, we can even have uh, biometric data, and even for staff, we collect staff data. And when we collect staff data, we collect staff data even including their medical records, which now places us into storing personal data. What about students' mark? They also forms that part of the personal data. So there is an emerging law about this data that we store in the institution. And this one is called the Global Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. So with this data protection, there are some tenets that we need to observe now as educational institution. And this has been necessitated by the growth of technologies and recently even by artificial intelligence. And so we also have artificial intelligence law, which come with its own regulation, and it builds into this global data protection. So what is it about? Let's look at it. The first one, it says that for the data that we have in the institution, that we should always process that data for a specific purpose that is clearly and trustfully stated to the learner. So whenever we collect this data, we need to be aware with the learners and we need to agree what the data is all about. For that, we need the learner to consent. So I do believe that prior to you to the paparazzi taking photos during this session, there was a consent that was shared. The consent was meant for you to give the consent as the originator of the data. And that is the practice now. It should even now extend even to the classrooms. The purpose. You should always mention the legitimate purpose of this particular information that we collect. But you saw that in the journey of a student, we collect quite a lot of data. We should minimize on the type of data. If we keep asking the data, you keep asking the personal data, is there a way the institution can have a system where it can present the data that it already have and so request for what is missing so that we can maintain data accuracy by updating the existing information so that we don't have a lot of information that is being collected but at different places. Then the fifth one, how long should we collect this data? And once the period elapses, what do we do with the data? That is very important also to consider in your institution. The period that you're going to collect the data and what happens to the data when that period elapses. Normally, the data is normally archived, but before archiving, it is pseudonymized so that you cannot easily trace the originator of the data. And then the integrity, and this regards to the technical requirements, where the data is stored, we need to safeguard. We need to make sure that it is protected against unlawful processing or loss. And that means where the data is collected, is stored, we need a password to protect it. We need cameras on the servers and so forth. And so with this global data protection, it is something that is touching on every institutions and businesses. As an educational institution, is there a way that your institution are aligned to this? So the big question then is, what are the principles of this data protection in regards to educational institutions? So yeah, we've discussed about this. That was on the diagram. There are key issues that we need to put into consideration and the definitions. So we'll keep mentioning about a data subject. A data subject is an identifiable person. In our context of institution, it is the lecturer, it is the student, and the personal data are the information that we can use or that we can relate to identify a person, like age. What else? Yes, yes, we saw in the previous presentation. So sensitive information are now those kind of information which form still personal information, but such as their belief, their genetic information, medical data, sex, sexual orientation, and so forth. Then whenever we take any operation perform on this data, such as collecting it, recording, organizing, storing, retrieving, we are talking about processing. And the person who are going to be in charge of these processes are called the data processors. There will be also a person who will be looking at the legal implication of the data, and that will be the data controller. So these two last ones are very important. They are latest roles that the institution needs to play data processor and data controller. Very important. So what is it that we should do as the institutions of higher learning? First, we have the forms that are already existing from every department to every divisions. Those forms, they come traditionally and students normally are required to fill. But do we ask for consent? So we need to update those forms so that as we collect the data, we are also seeking for consent and giving the purpose why we are collecting this data. There is compliance with the legal obligation, and that means the legal obligation that we need a data processor. Those data needs to be organized and collected at central locations that are easily edited by the users so that they are regularly updated. They are stored in accordance to the requirements of global data protection. So institution of higher learning needs also to comply with that. We also have legitimate interest. The data controller and the processor take charge here, and they might process this information maybe towards a research funding, towards graduation, and so forth. And so, yes, there should be a way in which the institutional policy legitimize the type of task that this controller and the processor should be able to perform on the data. There are also historical, statistical, literature or scientific research that have been performed in the institution, and in regard to those ones, they normally follow ethical approval, and for such a case, they are justified to be processed. So the policy should be able to cover all those areas. The age verification with child control. We do know that because of age, children cannot be able to give consent, and we do have our students who participate with community projects, and even those ones from School of Education who normally go out for teaching practice in schools. Today, take photos in schools while they teach or in teaching practice. What is the implication of that? So, whatever we want to take photos, even in the institutions, we need consent. And if it is institutions where they are young learners, their parents need to give consent prior to you taking the photos. So, it is also very important that we sensitize our students about this. So, there should be user training that is going to come. So as we look at all this, even publishing exams, traditionally our exams will be put on a wall, registration number and the grade that you got in that particular semester. It is no longer possible to do that under this global data protection. It is also no longer possible for a student in the university, an 18-year-old, if a parent come and they want also to see the progress of their students. If this student who is 18-year-old have not given consent, then you are not supposed to, you, the institution, are not supposed to reveal whatever they got or their results, even if it's the parent who pays the fees. So those are kind of complications that are coming up with this global data protection, but we need to rethink about them as the institution and develop our own institutional policies that covers them. So we have seen that there are roles that are coming up that our institution also need to maybe get some people that can assume these roles in order so that then we are not able to breach this data, and so that we also conform to the global data protection. So since the advent of this global data protections in 2016, all the way running now to 2024, almost coming to 10 years, what has your institution done? Has it complied to data protection? Just reflect about that. You may want to share that on the forum. Now, what we've done is we've shared with you a comprehensive, I think two or three policy documents from other institutions. What you're supposed to do is to look at this policy from this other institution and see, reflect about them, see how your institution can draft some of the policies that you can easily share and adopt in your institution. The institutions have shared policy are really streamlined to higher education, and they should fit in very well in terms of their structure and scope to your institution. So I do hope the point where you log in to the learning management system, you'll be able to go through this and be able to see how also your institution can benefit from developing such kind of policies. And remember, this is necessitated by the fact that we are building a digital ecosystem, and this digital ecosystem also comes also with implications of the policy and regulations of technology. I've mentioned that there's also AI policy. 2 months ago, European Union actually approved AI policy into law. And also we will also be seeing such kind of regulations also coming to our institutions, and it is something that we need to be aware of, and it's something that we need to create awareness in our institutions. So how do we comply as an institution? I've just done a summary. I do hope you will take some time also look at this. There are some technical measures that the institution needs to put in place, and there are some also institutional measures. For our technical people, where is the data stored? Where the data is stored, there should be a protection by the way it is designed. There should also be security in terms of cameras, locking, and all that. Password in terms of computer servers that are storing this particular data. People will be accessing this data continuously. Who are these accessing the data? So we need the log of events, and we need regular backups and ensuring that we meet all the certification for data requirements. So even as we mentioned that, there are also institutional measures that institutions should address, and this means developing policies and procedure on data, because now you are automating the processes, and as you automate the processes, what is going to run in these systems are data. So we need the policies which are going to govern the data processing. We also need regular assessment of what is being assessed. Is there any data breaches and so forth? Data processing agreements need to be put in place, and this will be in regards to those scientific research that requires them to access data, so forth, and proper documentation. And if there is any breach, then how do we go about breach notification? And that needs to be put in place. So I think that marks the end of data protection. I do hope internet was a bit stable for all of us to listen through. I'll stop there and take a few questions. Yeah, this is a kind of policy related. There was not much practical as uh, similar to the one we had in the morning. Yeah. Hello. 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 Allow me to interrupt you. There's a lot of echo and we are not able to hear clearly. So I am requesting that maybe use a microphone. Yes, yes. You can start mentioning your name, then you proceed. Yeah. Please continue.
Can you hear me now? Is
Very
the voice
clear.
clear?
Very
Great.
clear now. Good.
I'm Adeng from the University of Juba, School of Journalism, Media and Communication Studies. My question is about the policies and regulations in terms of data protection or protecting data or personal information of learners or students generally. In case of any security breach, be it from the end of the educational institutions or generally, however, there is any security breach. We don't have that digitalized system of students' data collection or usage generally. Most of the institutions here are using a very quite analog system. But we do have some cyber security laws in place, which is something that is very new. So I wanted an example of policies that are used in other countries in terms of
Yeah.
data protection. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've shared the policies on the courses. You'll be able to access them. The sample complete policy, and those are policy on privacy. And this policy on privacy, as you have mentioned, where the country has existing laws, they need to be aligned. So you will see that's the general institutional policies and also the policies touching on the uh, national policies around data security. Yes, indeed, it would be a very good start point to start with a policy, even if you have not already automated services, so that as you automate, it finds the policies already in place. So I do hope that you'll find some time to go through those policies and also be able to give feedback on the forums. Yes. Just proceed.
Yes, Peter, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I'm Johnson Mangar from the University of Juba. I would like to ask a question, like, I don't know, after this training, are we going to maintain this module account that you have created for us, or you are going to wipe out after some time?
I don't have a definite answer, but I know you will still be able to maintain it for quite some time. But I don't know now up to what point. But I think with that question asked, I will find out more details and be able to get back to you, Johnson, on the discussion forum in the later day once I get feedback from the providers.
Hello, Peter. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm getting you.
My name Chuldan Ndeng from Rumbek University of Science and Technology.
Yes,
I have a question on how to comply as an educational institution. And on the first bullet point you mentioned, appointment of data protection officer. And you know, all of us here, we have left the high authority for the universities, and some of us apply online and were shortlisted and nominated by the concerned institution. So how possible can we go back and trying to talk to the university so that they also get the policy and they appointed the protection officer, the data protection officer?
So as part of the discussion that we are going to be having on the forums, part of it is just to create awareness among us. I understand that not all of us are here, even including the management, they are not here. But the first point of awareness, this is something new. It is not something that has been there for quite some time. So it is an emerging issue in the region and across the world. As an emerging issue, we do hope that you will get the message across, preferably from your school, from your department. Then preferably if the policy also can reach people like the ICT offices in the institution, you will take a copy and perhaps some suggestions that you think can be amended and share it with the respective people like the ICT officers in the institution and the legal office also in the institution. We talked about the data controller and the data processor. The data processor is an IT person, is a person who is going to work with the data in terms of processing and developing the system that is going to accommodate the data. So that person will be a person that will sit in the ICT. Because it's a person that will sit in the ICT need to be aware about this role. It is a role that they will be able, an existing staff in the university can take up the role, or they will be able to get someone in future who will assume that role. To the legal office also need to be aware about this privacy laws that are coming into play. And I think it is already covered in your cyber security laws of the country. And they need to be aware that institution of higher learning needs also to comply. And as such, once they understand the roles that are required of them, see a similar policy, I do hope that it might not be immediate, but with due course, they will be able to implement. So
On the question.
yes, so let's take
Yes,
this as awareness training. Yes, continue, carry on.
Another question also, the same.
Yeah.
There's a question that asks, does the institution have a way students update their data regularly? You know, in our public institution, our students are registered manually. We don't have student photo. That's one. Two, the ITC department that we had is not yet exposed to all the students. Like in some other institution, like my university, we have the computer lab. And in that computer lab, the arrangement for the training for the student also is very slow because of the issue of capacity building or human resource. So how possible is the East Africa or the digital team may come up and make awareness, including us who are already in the training now? What possible do you think you can do as the team to reach the institution so that they're aware of the new system that we had? Because we are a member of East Africa community and we are still behind. Even the publication, even which is done in other public institutions, we are still very slow. So we had a lot of things to do. Seems you have just started as a team. May I request you, what is the way forward for that?
We are very lucky. Yes, thank you so much about all these issues that you're raising, and they cut across in the region. We are very lucky that we have also our very own Peter Guy, who represents us in the Inter-University Council of East Africa. And as I understand that there are some implementations that are being done, which are through trainings like these ones. And there will be also implementations which will be done, which are really physical trainings. And with capacity building, and those capacity building now maybe infrastructure, enabling institutions also to acquire infrastructure is where now we can be able to come in very strongly. I know also we do have researchers in the room who are looking forward for possibly which kind of research to undertake in the near future. Yeah, so this also could be an area that you would want to write proposals on so that you get research to build capacities in your institutions and to build also infrastructure in your institution. So the question of how we are able to support in terms of infrastructure, I do hope it's a question that we will also pose to Peter Guy, who sits in the Inter-University Council of East Africa committee, to be able to guide us on how we can get funds to also scale up in our institution. So I think I've noted it down and I'll pass it over to him.